pass without improvement. In this fire must Hector's trial shine. Here must his country, father, friends, be in him made divine. And such a stormy day shall come, in mind and soul I know, when sacred Troy shall shed her towers for tears of overthrow, when Priam, all his birth and power, shall in those tears be drowned. But neither Troy's posterity so much my soul doth wound, Priam, nor Hecuba herself, nor all my brothers' woes, who though so many and so good, must all be food for foes, must all be food for foes, food for foes, food for foes. Food for foes, as thy sad fate, when some rude Greek shall lead thee weeping hence, these free days clouded, and a night of captive violence. Clouded, and a night of captive clouded. Clouded, and a night of captive violence. And a night of captive violence leading thy captive and a night of captive violence leading thy temples, out of which thine eyes must leading thy temples, out of which thine eyes must never see, but spin the Greek wives' webs of task, and there fetch water be to Argos from Mesiades, or clear to Argos from Mesiades, or clear or clear Hyperia's spring, which howsoever thou abhorrest, fate's such a shrewish soever thou abhorrest, which howsoever spring, which howsoever thou abhorrest, fate's thou abhorrest, fate's such a shrewish thing, she will be mistress, whose cursed hands, when they shall crush out cries from thy oppressions, she will be mistress, whose cursed hands, when they shall crush out cries from thy oppressions, being beheld by other enemies, thus they will nourish thy extremes. This dame was Hector's wife, a man that at the wars of Troy did breathe the worthiest life of all their army. This again will rub thy fruitful wounds, to miss the man, but that day, man that miss the man that to thy bands could give such narrow bounds. But that day shall not wound mine eyes. The solid heap of night shall interpose and stop mine ears against thy plaints and plight. This said, plaints and plight, against thy plaints and plight. Ears against thy plaints and plight. This said, he reached to take his and plight. This said, he reached to take his son, who of his arms afraid. This said, he reached to take his son, who of his plaints and plight. This said, he reached to take his son, who of his arms afraid, and then the horsehair plume with which he was so overlaid nodded so horribly. He clinged back to his nurse and cried. Laughter affected his grace and cried. He clinged back horribly. He clinged back to his nurse and cried. Laughter affected his great sire, who doffed and laid aside his fearful helm, that on the earth cast round about it light, then took and kissed his loving son, and balancing his weight in dancing him, these loving in dancing him, these loving his weight in dancing him, these in dancing him, these loving vows to living Jove he used, and all the other bench of gods. O you that have infused soul to this infant, now set down this blessing on his star, let his renown be clear as mine, equal to clear as mine, equal his strength in war, and make his reign so strong in Troy that years to come may yield his facts this fame, yield his facts this, that years come to in Troy, that years to come may yield his facts this fame, may yield his facts this fame, facts this yield his facts this fame, when, rich in spoils, he leaves the conquered field sown with his slaughters. He leaves the conquered field sown with his slaughters. Conquered field sown with his slaughters. These high sown with his slaughters. Sown with his slaughters. These high, and let these high deeds exceed slaughters. These high deeds exceed his father's worth. And let this echoed praise supply the comforts to come forth of his kind mother with my life. This said, the heroic sire gave him his mother, whose fair eyes fresh streams of love's salt fire billowed on her soft cheeks, to hear the last of Hector's speech, her soft cheeks, to hear the last of Hector's speech, in which his vows comprised the sum of all he did beseech in her wished comfort. So she took comfort. The sum of all he did beseech in her wished comfort. So she took into her odorous breast her husband's gift, who moved to see her heart so much oppressed. He dried her tears, and thus desired, afflict me not, dear wife, with these vain griefs. He doth not live that can disjoin my life. He doth not live griefs. Vain griefs. He doth not live that can disjoin my vain griefs. He doth not live that can disjoin my life and this firm bosom, but my fate, and fate whose wings, and fate, but my fate, and fate whose wings can fly. Noble, ignoble fate controls. Once born, the best must die. Afflict me not, dear wife, with these vain griefs. He doth not live that afflict me. Afflict me not, dear wife, with these vain griefs. Afflict me not, dear wife, with these vain griefs. He doth not live that can disjoin my life and these who moved to see her heart so much oppressed. Griefs. He doth not live that can disjoin my life and these that can disjoin my life and that can disjoin my life and this firm bosom, but my fate, and fate whose wings can and fate whose wings can fly, and fate whose wings can fly. Noble, ignoble, but my fate, and fate whose wings can fly. Noble, ignoble, fate controls. Noble, ignoble, fate can fly. Noble, ignoble, fate controls. Once born, the best must die. Go home, and set thy housewife free on these extremes of thought, and drive war from them, and drive war from these will be nothing. Drive war thought, and drive war from them with thy maids. Keep them from doing naught. These will be nothing. Leave the cares of war to men and me. Leave the cares of war be not. These will be nothing. Leave the cares of war to men will be naught. Keep them from these will be nothing from doing naught. These will be nothing. Leave the cares of war to keep them from doing naught. These will be nothing. Leave the cares of war to men, and me, in whom of all the Ilian race they take their highest degree. On went his helm, his princess home, half cold with kindly fears, when every fear turned back her looks, and every look shed tears. Foe slaughtering Hector's house soon. Foe slaughtering Hector's house wept. Foe slaughtering Hector's house soon reached Hector's house. Hector's house soon. House soon reached. Hector's house soon reached. Her many women there wept all to see her. In his life, great Hector, all to see, never looked any eye of all to see her. In his life, great Hector's funerals were. Never looked any eye of theirs to see their lord safe home, scaped from the gripes, safe home. See their lord safe home, scaped from the gripes and powers of Greece. And now was Paris come from his high towers, who made no stay when once he had put on his richest armor, but flew forth, the flints he trod upon, the same that's chiefly dear, himself close at the stones, 50 fair grace brought him withal, so tottering Hector's house soon reached, her many women there, he had put on his richest armor, but flew forth, the flints he trod upon sparked with luster of his arms. His long-ebbed spirits now flowed the higher for their lower-ebbed spirits now flowed the higher for their, and as a fair steed, ebbed spirits now the higher for their now flowed the spirits now flowed the higher for their lower ebb. And as a fair steed proud, with full given mangers, long tied up, and now his long tied up, and now his head mangers, long tied up, and now his headstall broke. He breaks from stable, runs the field, and with an ample stroke measures the center, neighs and measures the center, neighs and lifts along his wanton head. About his shoulders shakes his crest, and where he hath been fed, or in some calm flood washed, and where he hath his flood washed, or stung, or in some calm rest, and where he hath been fed, crest, and his crest, and where he hath crest, and where he hath been fed, or in some calm flood washed, or stung with his blood washed, or stung with his high plight, he flies amongst his females, strength put forth, males, strength put forth, his beauty beautifies, and like life's mirror bears his gait. So Paris from the tower of lofty Pergamus came forth. He showed a sun-like power in carriage of his goodly parts, addressed now to the strife, and found his noble brother near the place where his noble thus respected, his noble brother, and found his noble brother near the place he left his wife. Him thus respected he salutes. Right worthy I have fear that he hath made forbear, worthy I have thus respected he salutes. Respected he salutes. Right worthy I have fear that your right worthy I have so made forbear, and that I he salutes. Right worthy I have fear that your so serious haste to field my stay had made forbear, and that field my stay had so serious haste to field, serious haste to field my stay hath made forbear, and that I come not confident, and made forbear, and that you're so hath made forbear, and that I come not as you wish. Confident man, he answered, not as you wish. He answered, honored man, be confident, for not myself nor any others can reprove thee in the work, at least not any such, at least not can reprove, nor any others can reprove thee in the work. Nor any others can reprove thee in the work self, nor any others can reprove thee in the work of fight, at least not any such as is, at least, for thou hast strength, at least not any such, at least not any such as is an equal judge of things, for thou hast strength as much as, for thou hast at least not any as such as is an equal judge of things, for thou hast strength as much as, for thou hast strength as much equal judge of things, for thou hast strength as much as serves it, as much as serves to execute, strength as much as serves to execute a mind very important, but thy strength too readily flies off. Enough will is not put to thy ability. My heart is in my mind's strife sad, when Troy, out of her much distress, she and her friends have, when Troy, out of her much sad, when Troy, out of her much distress, sad, when Troy, out of her much distress, she and her friends have had, by thy procurement, doth deprave thy noblesse in mine ears. But come, hereafter we shall calm these hard conceits of theirs, when from their ports the foe expulsed, conceits of theirs, when from their ports the foe expulsed, high Jove to them hath given wished peace, and us free sacrifice to them hath given, high Jove to them hath given welcome. Hereafter we shall hereafter we shall calm these hard conceits of theirs, but come. But come, here, but come, hereafter we shall calm noblesse in mine ears. But come, hereafter we shall calm all these hard conceits of theirs, when from their conceits of theirs, when of theirs, when from their ports the foe expulsed, high high Jove to them have given wished peace, and us free sacrifice to all the powers of heaven. Free sacrifice to all the powers of heaven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To all. Sacrifice to all the powers of heaven. Us free sacrifice to all the powers of heaven. All the powers of heaven. I am sent from firm cast by the celestial states. So heard I thy did twixt the hosts appear, smiled, yet of chimera, close, and yet divine. Twixt the general peers of Greece in reach of one, and thus the attempts that I see swell high thundering Jove. Wished Peace, Book 7. A foe Jove to them have given. Of the skies, what hast thou uttered? Neptune, Jove by hapless anger, Priam's strongest son, combat. This said, brave Hector through the ports with combats with Ajax Telamon. Wished Peace, 7. Argument, and us free sacrifice, Book 7. To all, Book 7, Book 7. Book 7. This Book 7. This said, Book 7. Argument. Hector, by Helenus' advice, to all the powers of heaven. Book 7. 7. Hector. Book 7. Argument. 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 Hector, by Helenus' advice, doth seek adventurous combat on the boldest Greek. Like the king of men, let any scape unfelled, for we have never fled. 9 Greeks stand up, acceptance every one, but Lot selects strong Aias Telamon. 9 Greeks stand up, acceptance every one, but Lot selects strong Ajax Telamon, the boldest Greek. 9 Greeks stand up, acceptance every one, but Lot selects strong Ajax Telamon. Both with high honor stand the important fight, till heralds part them by approached night. Lastly they grave the dead. Lastly they grave the dead. The Greeks erect a mighty by approached night. Lastly they grave the dead. The Greeks erect a mighty wall, their navy to protect, which till heralds part them by approached night. Lastly they grave the dead. The Greeks erect a mighty wall, their navy to protect, which angers Neptune. Jove by hapless anger. Jove angers Neptune. Jove by hapless signs in depth of night succeeding woes divines. In depth of night, in Ita, Priam's strongest son, another argues. Depth of night, succeed of night. In depth of night, succeeding woes divines. Another argument. In Ita, succeeding woes divines. Another argument. In Ita, Priam's strongest son, argument. In Ita, Priam's strongest son combats with Ajax Telamon. Combats with Ajax Telamon. With Ajax Telamon. Part them by approached night. Lastly they grave the dead. The Greeks erect a mighty wall, their navy to protect, which angers Neptune. Jove by hapless signs in depth of night succeeding woes divines. Another argument. In Ita, Priam's strongest son combats with Ajax Telamon. Book 7. This said, brave their swallow poly. Book 7. Book 7. This said, brave Hector through the ports with Troy's bane-bringing knight made issue to the insatiate field, resolved to fervent fight. And as the weather wheeled, wounds may either side invade, mind to single strokes excite. And our Queen Mother pray, pity ourselves, our This is cause why heaven's far darter darts these plagues amongst us. This public fight, and what Greece bears the great makes doubt to encounter, who's lion-like, who of our herald war a commander's stream inhuman Mars hath shed. All they shamed to deny, and feared they shamed to deny, like those sweet winds appear field, resolved to fervent fight. And as the weather wielder sends to seamen prosperous gales, when their swallow polished oars, long lifted from their fall, swallow polished oars, long lifted from their falls, their oars, long lifted from their falls, their wearied arms, dissolved with toil, can scale seamen prosperous gales, when their sallow polished oars long fight. And as the weather wielders, fight. Fervent fight. To fervent fight. And as the weather wielder sends to seamen prosperous gales, when their sallow polished oars, long lifted from their falls, their wearied arms, dissolved with toil, can scarce strike. Dissolved with toil, can scarce strike one stroke more. Like those sweet winds appeared to these lords to Trojans tired before. To those sweet winds, like those sweet winds, like those winds. One stroke more, like those sweet winds appeared these lords to Trojans tired before. Then fell they the works of death before. Tired before. Then fell they to the works of death. By Paris' valor fell King Areithous' hapless son, that did in Arna dwell, Menesthius, whose renowned sire a club did ever bear, and of Philomedusa gat, hapless son. Then fell they to the works of death. Then fell they to the works of death. They to the works of death. Then fell they to the works of death. By Paris' valor fell King Areithous' hapless son, that did in Arna dwell, Menesthius, whose renowned sire a club did ever bear, and of Philomedusa gat, and of Philomedusa gat, that had her eyes so clear, this slaughtered issue. Hector's dart struck Aeneas dead. Beneath his good steel casque it pierced above his gorget stead, that had her eyes so clear, this slaughtered issue. Hector, her eyes so clear, this slaughtered issue. Hector's dart struck Aeneas. Hector's dart struck, it pierced above. Beneath his good steel, Hector's dart struck Aeneas dead. This slaughtered issue. Hector's dart slaughtered issue. Hector's dart struck Aeneas dead. Beneath his good steel casque it pierced. Hector's dart struck Aeneas dead. Beneath his good steel casque it pierced above his gorget stead. Glaucus, Hippolochus' son, that led the Lycian crew, Iphinous, Dexiades, with sudden this slaughtered issue. Hector's dart struck Aeneas dead. Beneath his good steel casque it pierced above his gorget stead. Glaucus, Hippolochus' son, that led the Lycian crew, Iphinous, Dexiades, with sudden javelins slew, as he was mounting, when grey-eyed Pallas, as he was mounting to his slew, as he was mounting. Slew, as he was mounting to his horse, his shoulders took the spear, and ere he sate, in tumbling down, his powers dissolved were. In tumbling down, his power he sate, in tumbling down, his powers dissolved were. When grey-eyed Pallas had perceived the Greeks so fall in fight, from high Olympus' top she stooped, and did on Ilion light. When grey-eyed Pallas had perceived were. Down his powers dissolved were. When grey-eyed Pallas had perceived the Greeks so fall in fight, from high Olympus' top she stooped, and did on Ilion light. Apollo to encounter her to Pergamus did fly, and whence he, looking to the field, did fly, from whence he did fly, and did fly, to Pergamus did fly, from whence he, looking to the field, wished Trojans victory, at Jove's broad victory, at Jove wished Trojans victory. Trojans victory. At Jove's broad beach these godheads met, and first these godheads met. Turn head, wish Trojans victory. Broad beach these godheads met, these godheads met, godheads met, and first broad beach these godheads met. These godheads met, and first Jove's son objects. Broad beach these godheads' son objects. Either side invade, hereafter till the end of and first Jove met, and first Jove's son objects. Why, burning in contention thus, do thy extreme effects conduct thee from our peaceful hill? Is it to oversway the doubtful victory of fight, and give the Greeks the day? Thou never pitiest yet now let me, thou never pitiest thou never pitiest perishing Troy. Thou never pitiest perishing the day, thou never the day, thou never pitiest perishing Troy. Yet now let me pursue, yet now let me persuade Troy. Yet now let me persuade that this day no more mortal wounds may either side invade. Hereafter, till the end of Troy, they shall apply the fight, since your immortal wills resolve to overturn it quite. May either side invade. Hereafter, till the end of Troy, they shall apply the fight, since your immortal wills resolve to side invade. Hereafter, till the end of Troy, they shall apply the fight, since your immortal wills resolve to overturn it quite. Fight, since your immortal wills resolve to overturn it quite. Pallas replied, quite. Pallas replied, resolve to overturn it quite. Pallas replied, turn it quite. Pallas replied, it likes me well, for this came I from heaven, but to make, for this came, it likes me well, for this came, it likes me well, for this came I from heaven, but to make either arm, Pallas replied, it likes me well, for this came I from heaven, but to make either arm, this came I from heaven, but to heaven. This came I from heaven, but to make either army cease, what order shall be given? Came I from heaven, but to make either army cease, came I from heaven, but to make either army cease, what order shall be given? He said, we will direct the spirit that burns in Hector's breast. We will direct the spirit that burns in Hector's breast. He said, we will direct the spirit. Cease, what order shall be given? He said, we will direct the spirit that burns in Hector's breast to challenge any Greek to wounds with single powers impressed, which Greeks, admiring, will accept and make some one stand out, so stout a challenge to receive with a defense as stout. So one stand out, and make some one stand out, so stout, some one stand out, will accept and make some one stand out, so stout a challenge to receive with a defense as stout. It is confirmed. Defense as stout. As stout. It is confirmed, and Helenus, King Priam's loved seed, by augury discerned the event that these two powers decreed, and greeting Hector asked him thus. And greeting Hector asked him thus. Thus, wilt thou be once advised? I am thy brother, and thy life with mine. Thy brother, and thy life with thy brother, and I am thy brother, and thy life with mine is evenly prized. Command the rest of Troy and Greece to cease this public fight, and what Greece bears the greatest public fight, and cease this public fight. And what Greek bears the greatest mind to single strokes excite? I promise thee that yet thy soul shall not descend to fates. So heard I thy survival cast by the celestial states. So heard I thy survival cast by the celestial states. Hector with glad allowance gave his brother's counsel ear, and fronting both the hosts, advanced just in the midst his spear. The Trojans instantly surcease, the Greeks Atrides stayed. The god that bears the silver bow and war's triumphant maid on Jove's beach like two vultures sat, pleased to behold both parts flow into here. Vultures sat, pleased to behold both parts flow like two vultures sat, pleased to behold both parts flow in to hear, so sternly armed with huge shields, helms, and darts. And such two vultures sat, pleased to behold both parts flow in to hear, so sternly armed with huge shields, helms, and darts. And such fresh horror as you see driven through the wrinkled waves by rising zephyr, and raves, under whom the zephyr, under whom rising zephyr, under whom the sea grows black and raves. Such did the hasty gather and raves. Black and raves. Such did the hasty gathering troops of both hosts make to hear, whose tumult settled twixt. Such did the hasty gathering troops of both hosts make to hear. Such did the hasty gathering troops of both hosts make to hear. To hear, whose tumult settled twixt. Whose tumult settled twixt them both, thus, whose tumult settled twixt them both, thus spake the challenger, twixt them both, settled twixt them both, thus, twixt them both, thus spake the challenger, of both hosts make to hear, whose tumult settled twixt them both, thus spake the challenger. Hasty gathering of both twixt them both, thus spake troops of both hosts make to hear, whose tumult settled twixt them both, thus spake the challenger, whose tumult settled twixt them both, thus make to hear, whose tumult settled twixt them both, thus spake the challenger. Hear, Trojans, and you well-armed Greeks, what my strong mind diffused through all my spirits commands me speak. Commands me speak. Saturnius hath not used his promised favor for our truce, but studying both our ills will never cease both our ills, both our ills will never cease, till Mars by you his ravenous stomach fills with ruined Troy. By you his ravenous stomach fills with ruined Troy. Fills with ruined stomach fills with ravenous stomach fills with stomach fills with ruined Troy, or we consume your mighty seaborne. The general peers of since then the general Troy, or we consume your mighty seaborne fleet. Since then the peers of Greece in reach of. Since then the general peers of Greek. Then the general peers of Greece in reach of one voice. Peers of Greece in reach of one voice meet amongst you all, whose breast includes the most impulsive mind. Let him stand forth as combatant by all the rest, before whom thus I call high, by all the rest forth as combatant, by all combatant, forth as combatant, by all the rest designed, before whom thus, before designed, before whom thus I call high Jove to witness of our strife. If he with home thrust iron can reach the exposure of my life, spoiling my arms, O spoiler of my life, spoiler of my life, of my life, spoiling my arms, let him at will convey them to his tent. Let him, spoiling my arms, let life, let him at will. O spoiler of my life, spoiler of my life, spoiling my arms, let him spoiling my arms, let him at will convey them to his tent. But let my body be returned, that Troy's two sextus be returned, that Troy's be returned, that Troy's two-sexed descent may waste it in the funeral pyre. If I can slaughter him, Apollo honoring me so much, I'll spoil his conquered limb and bear his arms to Ilion, where in Apollo's shrine I'll hang them, as my trophies do. His body I'll resign to be disposed by his friends in flamy funerals, and honored with erected tomb, where Hellespontus falls into Aegeum, and in flamy funerals, and honored with erections, and honored with erected tomb, where Hellespontus falls into Aegeum, where Hellespontus falls into Aegeum, and doth reach Pontus fall into Aegeum. Pontus falls into Aegeum, and doth reach even to your naval road, that even to your naval road, that naval to your even to your naval road, even to your naval road, that when our beings in the earth shall hide their period, survivors sailing the Black Sea may thus his name renew. This is his monument, whose blood long since did fates imbrue, whom passing far in fortitude